So, finally doing another one of these. Took a little while to get back to Ableton in the video, but here we are. So, recently I released Waltz of the Wicked, which I personally believe to be my best original song to date. The medley doesn't count, there's not original stuff in there. And I had a poll on my Discord server, and I wanted to walk through how it was made, because it is genuinely my favorite original, probably, that I've ever made to date. And unlike the usual process where I just go through the instruments as they appear, I'm actually going to go through the song as I created it, and we'll see the progression that way. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the video. So it all started right here with this chord progression. Well, actually, it didn't start with the chords, it started with this bass line I made. You may notice it's just straight up a chromatic drop, which is something that I wouldn't normally do while making original music. But anyway, I made the time signature 3/4 because I don't work with it a lot, and all I did was add some chords on top of this original bass line, and these are some of the nicest chords I've ever made, actually. And over top of those chords, I threw in this little melody, and altogether you get this. So I started with that. That's all I had for a little while. And I moved into the next bar, so it's same piano. Except in this one, I've added a lower note. And I've also changed up the melody a little bit, particularly in these three bars here. And this sounds like this. So on top of that, the next thing I added was the street bell here, which just plays that little melody there. And that just adds a nice little layer. The next thing I added was a violin. And then completely by accident, I pasted the lead into a staccato violin. And this is one of my favorite sounds I think I've ever made. And that just adds a layer to the part that I can't explain it. It's just really good, in my opinion. And altogether, this part sounds like this. And there's a bit of a build-up with these rides down here. The intro of the song is just the lead, but quieter. And some reversed piano notes. Pretty simple. But now we get into the big stuff, which is this first section of build-up here. So let's go through the instruments in order. So the piano plays the same progression, but without the bass notes, and it also has these tiny little, I don't even know what you'd call these, but they're, I don't really know what they're called. They're these teeny tiny little melodies, but I think they sound pretty cool. And you might also notice that the chords repeat themselves in some places, and there's also this little melody at the end here. And the strings, the staccato strings that I showed you earlier, play the same thing, except it has the original lead over it still. The violin is still the same. I've added this horn playing the bass. And I don't know why, I just felt like adding a horn would be a good idea because it's like orchestra stuff, and I think it sounds pretty good. You can hear it if you listen closely. Next is a choir playing the chord progression. Pretty simple. And next is a quiet sub bass that's following the same notes as that horn. the only remaining new instrument that's worth talking about is this church bell. Now, on its own, it's extremely rough, but it adds a really nice layer once you put it in with everything else in the song. I've also added this kick and snare, just really simple pattern. I didn't even use a drum kit, it's just raw samples. And that's it. That's basically the drum loop for the entire song. And yeah, that's the build-up section. Goes on for 3 measures, and it's... Oh, I guess in the second 2 measures, this piano also plays the melody, except it just has the lead and the bass notes. And altogether, the build-up sections sound like this. And that's essentially it for the build-up. The street bells play the melody too at some point. And then there's a single church bell. Ow, my ears. And then the drop. So the drop is almost the same thing as the build-up when it comes to all the chords and stuff. Obviously there's a crash, but everything is the same other than the addition of this hi-hat loop. And of course, the lead. The lead is made up of 3 main instruments. There's this Colossus guitar, which you've heard in a lot of my recent songs. But what's different is I've added this wah-wah to it. And I actually had to download a wah-wah plugin for this. But anyway, it's, the guitar sounds like this. And you might have heard some pitch bends in there, which I'll get to in a second. The next is this simple chip sounds sawtooth. That, oh god, the pitch bend. That I just want to filter, some reverb, and a bit of chorus onto. And finally, to add a less aggressive layer, I suppose, is the African bars, which I've talked about before. Second bar of the lead is just a little bit different and sounds like this. And I'll go over the pitch bends. I guess I'll use the saw wave to demonstrate this. So this is just the MIDI control for pitch bending, and it goes up into some of these notes. There's a pitch bend in the middle here. It goes down after this one and up and down the final note. So you can follow this as the cursor moves along. You can hear the pitch bending. And some similar things happen in the second half. So the lead just loops over again, and then we go into a pseudo break section. It's the same thing, except the only thing still playing the lead is the African bars. And this is what the lead sounds like all together, the drop rather. Okay, it kind of bugged out towards the end there, but you get the idea. Next is basically the same thing, except the only thing on the lead is the African bars. X is a bit of a small break. And then we get into an actual break section with the next original part of the song. So we're back to this piano instrument that I talked about at the beginning of the video. And it's the same chord progression, you know. It's the same chord progression, you know. you get the idea. It's the same chord progression, but I've just put this very arpeggio kind of lead over top of it. And that plays for a bar, just to give you a general idea of the break. And then I bring in the street bells, the staccato violin, the actual violin, and even the horn gets in on the lead a little bit here if I play this. This whole break section kind of sounds like this. The only thing different about this measure here is there's this kick drum build-up pattern leading back into the second drop. Nothing fancy. There's another church bell, much like there was in the first drop, and the drop is essentially the exact same thing as the first one, except the leads are now playing that arpeggio rather than the original lead. And this is what it sounds like on the guitar. Here's the saw wave. And the African bars. And second drop sounds like this all together. So the sawtooth, which is one of the loudest instruments in this next part here, which brings back the second piano and the choir. The guitar and the African bars play the original lead now, but the saw wave is still playing the arpeggio. This part sounds like this. One thing that is nice is they kind of join up back together and are on the same page during this part. They both kind of go up really high and topple back down to the next bar. So there's 2 bars of that, and then all 3 lead instruments are playing the same thing again. And there's a holdout note into the final break section. And the break section is, once again, most of the backing instruments just without the lead, and the hi-hats are also cut off for this break section, unlike the first one. So it sounds like this. And then to end the song, all that's playing is the piano, playing the arpeggio, and the staccato violin playing the original chords as well as that little melody. And of course the bass is still here, for 2 of the bars at least, and there's some rides to carry out the song. And the outro sounds like this. The bass fades out. Just the violin and the piano. And the piano carries out the song. So yeah, that's how I made Waltz of the Wicked. It's honestly, like I said at the beginning of the video, one of my favorite songs I've ever produced. I'm really happy with the way it came out. It's amazing what making one little piano chord progression, this one right here, can give you the ideas to do. But yeah, I'm really happy with the way this one came out, and I hope you guys are too. If you haven't heard the original song, I highly recommend it. It's honestly probably one of the better things I've produced, so if you want to get an idea of the kind of stuff I do here, I'd recommend this song. If you enjoyed the video, maybe drop a like, or if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider subscribing. I also have a Discord server. The link to that will be in the description. Don't feel obligated to join, but it would be nice. We have a nice community there, and that's where I ask stuff for these polls, and you can give me music suggestions and all that sorts. But anyway, with all of that out of the way, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day.